Hey, thank you for watching this video. If you like the content, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And also please check out my new online learning platform, designupgrade.thinkofic.com. For more information, check out the end of the video or watch the promotion video in the playlist. And now have fun with the tutorial. And now we want to get to the heart of this whole design, which is the courtyard. And the first thing we want to do is add some more details, which is like the doors and the window walls, and then we will continue on with the stairs itself. Now this is again the preview, so don't get confused. Again, I'm going to switch to the drawings that we were doing together. Go to Rhino, and this is where this is basically where we left off. And now we want to draw the doors. Now for the doors, I'm just going to create, first of all, again, a rectangle. Very generic, just to have more or less the proportions of the door relative to my floor plan. And as you can see, I have my guidelines here, and I will just do a center again, center rectangle, and catch this middle intersection point of my guidelines. The first value that I want to give in is again 0.15. Also just forget the 0 and just write point anything, which will have the same result. And now the overall depth of my door is actually 75 centimeters, which is in my meter units the same as 0.75. I press that, and that is basically my door opening, right? And here on this side, on the upper side of the door, will be now a window wall on both sides, but we will come to that in a second. Let's say I have this more or less defined, and what I want to do now is actually generate my door block. And I'm going to go to my 2D blocks, going to go to my doors, and I'm going to create sub-layers that, again, I need to draw my door. So the first sub-layer is, again, going to be my frames, and I can put that one onto dark gray. And then I have also my hidden lines, maybe, and I also have and of course the last thing I want to add here, of course, is my base point. Otherwise, as you know, we will have some problems if you don't know our base point. Okay, so let's continue on. I have this with my proportions, so this is the width of the overall door itself. So again, I can use my rectangle here, and I will again use now my frame layer is on, and I will take my let's take actually center again. Let's take it here, and this time I'm going to type in 0.075, which is my frame width. And the height actually is, let's say again, 3 centimeters, so 0.03. Place it, I just move it because I started with the middle, and that is my frame. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to take this here and just mirror it using my symmetry line. And now I'm going to combine those two layers using my opening or my hidden line. So that's my hidden line. That is apparently wrong. Let's do it like that. So here I go, and then I want to make sure that I actually draw the opening of my door, right? And the way that I want to do is just simply take this line and just rotate it, actually. Just rotate it, take this as a center point, and then just rotate it like so. And then we have our basic door line, let's say. This is hidden. I can also just give it the hidden line, and maybe just make it gray for us to better visualize that. Now here you go. And what I also want to do is create an arc. This is basically the door swing, if you want, which has been displayed as so. Now, actually, this is it. This is my door. If I want, I can also just keep that now and just add a point. So I just go to my base point, this point, and I'll just define my middle here on this line, on the middle line of this middle point. Select that. Just make sure that I more or less take my rectangle and just delete it right now. I don't need it. I'll just take everything that I've drawn so far, yeah, and I can now make sure that I go to my doors master layer and I say block, and I catch my defined base point and I say 2D door floor plan. If I want to be super precise, I say courtyard. And I say, okay. Now this is my door, and what I want to do quickly is continue on with my drawing, and then we will just make a mirror. So the first thing I want to actually do now is define my walls a little better, right? Because they are currently not really making sense. in a way that I'm just going to show it to you right now. So I'm just going to create a line and just make sure that the line is actually intersecting with both of my wall lines here. And I'm also going to create a line here. Now, I want to trim off those lines and those lines, but I don't want to, I want to be efficient. So I say trim, and I make sure that my cutting lines is set to yes. Extend cutting lines is set to yes. And I select my cutting lines, which is this guy and this guy, press enter, and now I can just trim off anything that basically are catched by those lines. And this again, extend means that this line and that line are extended infinite, and everything that I would now select would be trimmed off in that sense. Good. And now what I can do now is select those walls, say join, and also I want to say close curve. And that will just close that curve here on this section. And here I again want to join those three. I say join, and I can of course say close and see if that works, and it works quite fine. So I have here my closed, let's say, wall here. And the only thing that's left is I want to also draw the window wall partition here. And this is something that we can just basically do by taking this guy, for instance. We could take it, just do a copy it somewhere, and we can just rotate it now. I will rotate it -90, so the base point here matches my point there. I will go to Windows, just a master layer window, and I will explode this block first. Now I don't need this line, I don't need this line, I don't need this line. I only need this here. And I will just move it like so. And I will say PON. And I'm going to start to just select those information that I need, and I will move it here. And I take this point, move it to the center. And now I have this guy. I can select them and say again block. I make sure that I'm on my Windows layer, say block, hit that block point, and now I say 2D, let's say window, wall, courtyard, floor plan. Floor plan, you get the idea. You can mess it as you want to. Courtyard, this is so many typos, just don't worry right now, it's okay. And again, I have some more detail. Now I have a door and I have a window partition. And if I don't like something, if I say I actually want this line displayed, I actually don't want this line displayed, I can always go inside here, add some information. I could take this here, I could copy it, and say okay. And now I have it here also, and I can now just take those two guys and mirror them. Okay, so now we have created a little more detail for the courtyard, and now we are going to start modeling the stairs. So let's continue on. I want to first of all draw my basic stair type, which is the proportions of my stair in general. I will go here, I have my smart track on, catch this middle axis of my line here, of my add line. And then I am going to say two things. I'm going to say, first of all, minus 0.23, which is in a nutshell my width of my stair, enter. And now I'm going to also define the length. And the length here is 0.675. That's my length. And then I press enter. And now what I want to do is I want to move this stair from my axis, middle axis here, about 1.15 meters inside to my courtyard. Now that is the first stepping. And also what Tadao Ando has done very nicely, if I just quickly go to my example here, a nice little detail that he also has, if you can see it basically here, he has this stepping and there's always like a attachment to it, which is also in the material set differently, which makes a very nice overall detail if you want, which we will model up anyway, so we need to define that also in our 2D drawing, right? I'm going to switch to my drawing that we are doing together, and this is just simply taking this rectangle, do a copy, take it and scale 1D, and just say 0.1, which is 10 centimeters, okay? So now we have our stairs. We can group them if you want to, but let's not group them right now, doesn't really matter. What we want to do is do an array. We want to have 11 pieces of them. So we're just going to type in ArrayLinear. We want it this time say 11, not 3. And then we just take the endpoint here and the start point there, and we have quickly generated our steps. And now we want to try to modulate that a little bit more detailed. Now the first thing that we want to do is add an arrow, right? And as a rule of thumb, I mean, it really depends, but you want to, because this is a section of your first floor, you will cut through the stairs, right? So you somehow have to display that visually, always in drawings, that you want to say, hey, these stairs are cut. So everything you see to the point you can actually see, then everything else is actually hidden because you can't see it anymore, because you're cutting, let's say, on level of 1.5. So let's just take a line quickly. And the way that we usually do it is, I always do it like so. So you have two steps and you make a diagonal line, which means that it is cut it here. And then what I will do is just do an offset or make a copy of that. Let's say about 0.05, which actually catches the middle point quite nicely. And everything that's above that is going to be split and will be defined in the hidden layer. Now again, I'm a little bit not working very efficient. If you can see, I'm in my window layer. So I want to make sure that I take everything here and go to my thin lines and say change objects. So now that if I go to my thin lines, I do this, and you can see that some of my lines already are not very nicely layered. So I'm just gonna take them. If I turn off my blocks, you can see everything which should not be on my blocks. Now everything makes sense. If I put off my blocks layer, I'm remained with my wall sections and my thin lines, which is beautiful now. So let's continue on. Now I want to define that everything here is in the layer hidden. Yeah. So the way that I could do this is take this, or take this here and split. Make a split. Select everything that I want to split. I'm going to select those lines that I actually want to split. Select it and then use my cutting object, which is this guy, and split it. Yeah. And now everything that I select should be for me to, access, and I put it onto my hidden lines. Change hidden lines. So you can already see visually that it is kind of not there anymore. And what I want to do is, this is up to you how you want to define that. Again, there are a million ways to do that actually. I'm just going to trim off everything that's between those lines just to say really, okay, this is all kind of a section line, yeah? And the last thing that I want to do here is actually add a little bit more detail, which is taking the middle here and drawing a line. And I also want to do this, basically my arrow. So I want to say, I want to use a polygon for this guy. I do a polygon, I say number of sides is 3, and I catch some point here, and then I can draw my arrow. Now, again, this is up to you. I will just say 0.1, enter, and then I can just move that down, and this is how you would define that in a sense, yeah? So this is basically your stairs showing that and displaying that a little bit better. Okay, so let's continue on. We also have a small detail here where actually on the ground floor, hypothetically, there is a door here where you can actually go inside there for some storage room. Now, I'm not completely sure if that is actually correct, but we can just believe it for now. And that actually implies that there is a wall going through here. So we have to somehow define this guy a little different. What that means is I'm going to quickly just draw a rectangle. Start from here maybe, and catch my smart track and put it here. And this I'm going to make sure I go to thick lines. Yeah, so I'm going to my thick lines layer, and now that means that I can actually delete everything that is here. Falsely maybe drawn, doesn't really matter. And I take this, and now I want to use my PointsOn method and take those control points and move them to those diagonal lines, so it somehow looks the way that I want it to be. And there you go. So this is now showing me that this is a wall here. This can be defined like that. I can select those lines here. I say explode. Now they are still selected, so I make sure that I hit my control button, deselect them with my control button, and now I delete everything on the sides because I don't really need that. And those are just my hidden lines that are there to show that this is actually continuing on. I could also take them and do like an extend quickly. So extend, this is my boundary, I press that and I can now just make sure that they hit there. Okay, and something interesting to see is that I have a potential of double lines right now. So I want to make sure that it's clean. So I say cell duplicates, and you can see that it's actually selecting me some lines, and I say delete. I don't need that. That is just messing up my lines here. So I have one more line here, I think. Yes, and delete. Now it's clean, I hope. Yeah. And now what we can also do is I take this guy here and I just move it like so. And what we could do now is just trim off this section here. We could either do it like this, or we use our cool function, which we have learned. So I do curve Boolean. I select those geometries and I place it inside here. So this is my wall now. And I can lock it quickly, so I can delete everything that's here. Maybe not this guy. And this one I want to actually trim off, so I can just take this line that I've constructed now and trim away that. Join it. Good to go. I hope that was not too fast. If it was too fast, just pause and look at it again. But let's continue on, because I want to actually place a door also here. So what we could do is just take this here and copy it. Let's say from this middle point, and I make sure that I catch my axis here, and you will see that this door again is too big. So what we could do now is just remodel that or scale it. Scaling it is always not a good practice with blocks because it will scale it proportionally, so your frames are going to be smaller, etc. So what we have to do is actually model up again. So I could just explode it, make sure I go to my doors here, and then do the same routine. So I'm just going to take everything, and actually I am going to scale it now. Scale, make sure that you hit that guy, and then I have to make sure that I actually define it back that it makes sense. So what I would do now is just make sure with scale 1D that my proportions are still correct. So this has to be 3, and you can already see what happens there. So you can now actually go here and just check if those proportions are correct, etc. But that's something that you can do now. So I'm not going to stay here for too long. I'm just going to take that guy again and just say block, and define that and say 2D smaller door. So what I mean with that is basically just make sure now we have defined that actually, because now you scaled it uniformly. That means that your frames are going to be smaller. Yeah, it's not that nice geometry that we have constructed before. So what we could do is again go inside here and make sure that we say PointsOn, and then more or less define this object again as it should be. But that's something you can do. For now, it's okay. Okay. So a little bit more detail here. Now we have constructed the stairs actually quite good. Now we can continue on using those imaginary hidden lines to actually display the bridge above. Yeah, and that's something that we're going to do now. Okay, so we're going to change into hidden lines because we're going to draw the bridge that's actually above the courtyard, and we can't really see it actually, but we want to still display where it begins. Now it's actually quite nicely done by Tadawando, I have to say. The bridge is exactly the frame size that we have drawn for our doors, so I can just literally do a rectangle without any other feature and draw the rectangle from frame to frame. That is more or less the basic concept of that bridge. Now we also have on the sides, we have that balustrade which is made of concrete, so we have to give an offset to that of 15 centimeters. What that means is I'm going to quickly just explode my rectangle. With Control, just select that or unselect that I don't want to delete. So I delete those sidelines. And now I'm going to take that and just move it by 0.515, 15 centimeters. This one again, but this time I'm going to say minus 0.15 to be super precise. And that will offset that basically in that direction. Now, you can already see that there's a little bit of detailing that we have to do quickly, is that of course this line should not go into the wall, and on this side we actually have, if I do my smart track, we also have here a detail which looks something like this. So you have a concrete flooring there above, which you can't see from here. So I'm just going to quickly say trim and trim off that information. So we have this kind of detail, and this is on both sides, that is. So I'm just going to copy that, mirror it from my symmetry line here, and just going to say trim. And that is, in a nutshell, my bridge on top. And now also we have to give a small detail here, which is in basically this kind of detail here. So we see that this is actually the podest that we walk on to that. Okay, very good. That's already helping us quite a bit. Now I quickly want to show you something with the hidden lines, and that is actually that we want to make that a little bit more suggestive. Yeah. So what I want to do is I actually want to go to options, bring up the window, and then you can see by line types, you can actually create your own line type. Now, the hidden lines here, I don't like them that much. They're too dense. They're too small in that sense because I can't really show that what I want to show. So I go to hidden and I check out what kind of scale it is. And the pattern is quite small. So it's 2 by 2 millimeters right now. And I could now just do add. I could create my own one. And I say, I want to have a hidden also. And I say hidden 0.1, and that I want to give a pattern. Actually, you want to say 10, 10. This is the way to write it down, and you can already see in the preview how it actually looks. I say okay, and what I could do now, I go to hidden, and I actually say hidden 1, and you can see already that it is a little bit more differentiated than the one that I had before. Now I could again do options and say, okay, it's still not enough. Actually, I want that to be, let's say 40 to, 40. Say okay, and set my to hidden 1. And now you can see it's a little better visually. That's it actually. No, it's just visually a little bit more prominent that it's a dashed line. So that is quite good. So we learned that. And now let's continue on just basically quickly with the entrance situation and the bathroom situation. And then we're done with the floor plan number 1. Then we're going to quickly model up number 2. And then that's it for this first tutorial. And then we're going to continue up with the section, 3D modeling, rendering, whatever you like. Hey, thank you for watching this video. If you like the content, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And also please check out my new online learning platform, designupgrade.thinkofic.com. Here you can watch half of the content for free. Just sign up and you will find the content nicely structured. So thank you very much, and I hope you made some design upgrades.